Hey, what's going on everyone? I'm the OPJellicent, and yeah, we are out here in another Ultra Sun and Moon Wi-Fi Draft League. I'm going to be going over the 11 Pokemon that the Toronto Leaf Stormers opted to pick up here in Season number 3 of the Ultimate Battle League. Some quick backstory before we get right into this. My guy Irish Emerald, who I actually collaborate with over on the Core Enforcers, hit me up and was like, you're playing UBL main this season whether you like it or not, and obviously I was down since I had no Wi-Fi Draft Leagues lined up for the summer, and I do want to get a couple more in before Sword and Shield releases, so shoutouts to him for giving me the invite. But regarding the draft itself, obviously it followed a wheel format, meaning that the last pick in the first round picked first overall in round number 2, and I was actually randomized into the second overall pick. The only person who picked before me was Goldoa Dragon, and when I saw this, I instantly knew what mon I wanted, and assuming Goldoa didn't snatch it up, it would end up being mine. Fortunately, Goldoa did not take this mon. I'm not going to spoil his pick in case you plan on watching his video, but let's hop right into round number 1. So for round 1 right here, a very vital round, especially considering the 28 picks in between this pick and my second overall choice, I scooped up Mega Latios. What I really find valuable right here is how many different matchups Mega Latios can cover. There isn't really ever a matchup you will see that Mega Latios does nothing in, because the nice speed tier at 110 for sure makes it a viable option against other offensive builds, and of course Command can make it more of a breaker against fatter drafts. The fact that its special attack set is already quite high, up at 160, means that I can invest EVs into bulk whenever I feel that's no more necessary than the power, and I don't really have to worry about a huge power deficit due to that stat. Dragon is certainly an option too if I do find that physical offense seems to be a more reliable way to break down certain teams, but even then Psyshock, which does hit on the physical side, or a mixed set can come in handy if I don't want to use this as a win condition. So final notes right here regarding Mega Latios: so much coverage, Surf, Energy Ball, Shadow Ball, Earthquake, Bolt Beam, alongside its dual stab of course. It does get multiple Dragon Stab options too, Draco Meteor and Dragon Pulse, obviously Dragon Claw for the physical option. It also gets a ton of utility in Thunder Wave, Defog, Tailwind, Memento, Dual Screens, and Roar, so it should for sure be a fun Pokemon to toy around with, and let's go ahead and move on. So somehow my boy Manaphy here made it all the way down to pick number 31. I don't know if people just think it's bad or whether it simply got overlooked, but hey, I know for a fact it's not a bad Pokemon, and I'm certainly not complaining right here. Obviously Tail Glow just makes it a terrifying balancer wall breaker, but beyond that, Choice Scarf Manaphy for speed control is certainly a thing. In fact, in one of the draft leagues I'm playing on the side right now, there was a game where I managed to get myself into a 3 versus 1 position after playing very well. My opponent had their Zygarde left with a Dragon Dance up, and if it wasn't for Scarf Manaphy's speed control with Ice Beam, I definitely would have gotten swept from that position, so that was really useful. Bulky sets with Rain Dance Hydration is pretty cool too, if you really don't need the coverage, but I actually didn't end up making Manaphy a Z-move user, so Z-Rain Dance unfortunately will not be a thing. That's not too worrying. I definitely see Manaphy playing more of a breaking role to open up other win cons this season, so that's all good, and let's go ahead and move right into the third round. Moving right along here, I really love Cobalion as an offensive stealth rocker that also provides momentum with the Volt Switch. Cobalion and Manaphy is kind of a cheese Volt turn core, I'm aware, but hey, it's certainly a thing. Like I mentioned, momentum into breakers such as Command Latios or Tail Glow Manaphy is absolutely great. It gets me started on a Fairy Dragon Steel. The one drawback to this particular mon being is that it's actually a steel that doesn't provide me with the Fairy resist, so Mega Latios still needs that to be patched up, but it can certainly sponge the Ice and Dark type hits that Mega Latios dislikes. The coverage is certainly there as well: X Scissor, Poison Jab, Stone Edge, and Zen Headbutt, in addition to its dual stab, which is why I actually made it for the first of my 2 Z-move users on this draft. Unfortunately, that coverage is pretty much limited to its physical sets. Special variants are more or less going to rely on its dual stab only, but hey, that can certainly work too depending on my opponent's resistances. Rock Polish actually makes this a really nice late game cleaner too. It does also get Taunt, so preventing hazards or random setup is something my opponents will definitely need to look out for in Taunt, and yeah, let's get right on to round number 4. So here's a mon that I actually used in my title-winning draft recently in the IBLD League. I didn't bring Weavile to that many games over there, but I actually used Choice Scarf Weavile in both my playoff matches, and it actually ended up cleaning both of those games, which was certainly a cool sight to see. Pursuit Trapping Ghost is really nice considering that Mega Latios is weak to those, and I also don't have any resists until now, but I do have to be careful about Colbur Berries, of course, just make sure that those don't catch me off guard and I take any fighting moves in return. The speed tier is great. I really thought that my breaking offense was there in between all the other setup options I have on the other 3 mods, but this thing is going to be an issue to my opponents if they want to win the speed game. Priority is obviously a nice thing to have, of course. Ice Shard, Fake Out, and Quick Attack are all things. It does get great coverage too. Natural Gift can actually provide me any coverage that I want if I'm willing to forego my item slot, but Iron Tail, Low Kick, Poison Jab, and X Scissor are all also there if my dual stab or natural gift is not enough. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to make this a Z-move user after making Cobalion Z, so I had to opt for something else, but let's move right into the 5th round. Here's the first Pocket Monster on this draft that I've never actually used before in the format. I'm actually glad I ended up taking Rotom-Heat here because there was another coach who mentioned they would have grabbed it this round had I not. It does provide me with a fairy resist that I otherwise lacked prior to now. A secondary defogger is great considering I only had Mega Latios to defog until now, and I also have no rapid spinner still. The slower speed tier is definitely something I needed. Every Pokemon I had until now was either base 100 speed or higher, which meant opposing Pokemon below those base speeds could actually freely run Modest or Adamant Natures. This goes ahead and stops that to anything above base 86. I am aware that I'm sort of stacking Stealth Rock's weaknesses between these last two picks, but I'm really all not too worried about it. I've succeeded in draft leagues before with multiple hazard weak Pokemon, so it should be all good. Last quick things I wanted to mention, more Volt Switch momentum is great, Will-O-Wisp and Thunder Wave are both options, Plane Split could be cool. Let's get into round 6. So we're here at the halfway point of the Toronto Leaf Storm's draft. There were 5 picks prior to Crobat, and there will be 5 picks after. I really wanted to give myself even more hazard control, and while I know this is another hazard weak Pokemon, it does get reliable recovery unlike Rotom-Heat. Flying type is probably one of the more spammable offensive typings in the format, so in a lot of scenarios I can't afford to lose the coverage and just run Defog, Roost, and other utilities such as Taunt if I want to. It does also build on my Volturn. This is a second U-turn user alongside Manaphy, and we do have 2 Volt Switch users in Cobalion and Rotom-Heat. Crobat is also another fairy resistant Pokemon, which does take some pressure off of Rotom-Heat in that regard. I actually did make Crobat my second and last Z-move user. Its coverage isn't anything special, but given what I could afford, this made the most sense. It does also get some coverage though. Heat Wave, X-Scissor, Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, and Zen Headbutt, so those can be cool if I do want to bring the techs. Last thing to mention right here is it is another speed tier higher than Weavile, so I force monster like Zeraora, Mega Lop, and Mega Mane to invest less bulk out around this Pokemon, and let's get right into the 7th round. So this next Pokemon here is probably the bulkiest thing on my draft so far. I did have some good pivots being Manaphy, Cobalion, and Rotom-Heat, which can all certainly hold their own regarding bulk, but I wanted an actual reliable wall with a reliable recovery. That's an area where I believe Hippowdon sets itself apart from other grounds such as Landorus T or Donphan. Slack off for longevity is so nice. While it is sort of passive, I know, it does get phasing and roar and can run toxic to ensure that setup Pokemon don't take advantage of Hippo right here. Stealth Rocks is of course a thing. This is my second Stealth Rocker alongside Cobalion, so that can potentially free up Cobalion to run dual setup or simply more coverage if it does opt for that. And yeah, that's really it for Hippo. I do plan on bringing Choice Band to a match just because it is kind of a classic meme here on the channel, but I'm excited to see how it performs, and yeah, let's get right into round number 8. Accelgor is a Pokemon that actually solidifies my speed tier advantage against most other drafts. Accelgor at base 145, Crobat at 130, and Weavile at 125. It's pretty difficult to beat in that regard. Given the offensive nature of my team, I know that spike stacking is going to be great to get the necessary chip I need for my own breakers and win conditions. It does also get Toxic Spike, so if I do want to break through my opponent's fat and my own offense cannot do it, I could bring like T-Spike's balance with Hippo, Mega Lati, Rotom, and then Accelgor as my setter. It is also another U-turn user, so that's a third. Final Gambit is super nice. If I need a certain wall out of the way for a win condition to have fun late game, I can just catch that with a Final Gambit, and the opponent may not recognize that mon's value until the win condition just starts having fun. So yeah, Accelgor is great. Round 9 is next. Let's go ahead and get right into that. So for these last 3 picks right here, I certainly had to budget for. At this point, I had 120 points left, and I figured that grabbing 3 40-point mons would be better than picking up some like 20-point throwaway mon and then some other good mons. The first of these 3 mons is actually Gourgeist. I figured that if stacking hazards is one of my best ways to take advantage of my offense, I should at least pick up a spin blocker alongside those hazards. I'm pretty sure that I get access to all the Gourgeists too, so I can go ahead and interchange the speed and defense stats to whatever I feel is best for the particular matchup. Shadow Sneak priority is cool. In fact, I have a ton of priority on this draft. I believe Cobalion, Weavile, even Crobat with a quick attack, and Accelgor, and now this all get priority, which is kind of neat. Will-O-Wisp is obviously a common utility on this thing. I can even run like Custap Berry Destiny Bond with certain EVs to maybe lure a mon that would otherwise stop a win condition. So yeah, this thing should be a fun pickup, and yeah, 2 picks left to go. Second to last up right here, it's actually my Fairy, which I delayed all the way here until round number 10. The reason being, I was actually the only draft left at this point that did not have a Fairy type Pokemon, so while I could have technically waited until the final round to pick Granbull, I certainly did not want to risk Goldoa, who picked in between my last 2 picks right here, doubling up on Fairies and taking Granbull as well. Anyway, regarding Granbull itself, it's certainly not your typical fairy that will pass wishes, be a special pivot, and all that. It's actually more of a physical wall and a physical breaker. Even without any investment, base 120 attack is still great, and I'm pretty sure its coverage is great too. I know it gets Earthquake, Elemental Punches, Superpower, and a few other moves alongside player-ups, so its utility is also nice. I believe it's a Cleric with the Heal Bell. It just got Thunder Wave for speed control, so that could be cool if I really need it, which something tells me I will not need to run Thunder Wave given how fast my draft already is, but you never know. So yeah, 1 pick left, we have our fairy out of the way. let's reveal that and end things off. Rounding out the Toronto Leaf Storm's draft right here, our final 40-point budget mon is Zangoose. I originally wanted the slot to be Stoutland for the Sand Sweeper, but unfortunately my guy Irish took that from me a few rounds early. Imagine that, right? Inviting somebody to a league and then sniping them. Jeez, now I'm just playing around. But yeah, Zangoose was the next best thing right here. Its speed tier at base 90 forces base 100s to run speed boosting natures, what the Rotom-Heat didn't already do. Manaphy was really covering that. It's even more priority right here with quick attack, and while it is sort of one-dimensional, really only using the Toxic or boost set right here, it's the matchup is right. Zangoose can just go on a tear, and yeah, that's the draft. Week 1 will be going live for this Friday the 14th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to let me know what you guys think about the draft down below in the comments, and yeah, I'll catch you later.